Chosen one, let your mind go completely still for a moment. Mentally release the heavy burden of guilt you have been carrying for the last few weeks. You have been quietly punishing yourself, haven't you? You watched plans fall apart at the last minute, unexpected financial drains, and people suddenly shifting their energy away from you. Your mind convinced you that you were doing something wrong, that you were failing, or that God was punishing you with silence. But I need you to hear this clearly. A teacher is always silent during a final exam. You were not failing, you were navigating a highly advanced spiritual decoy. You kept your core integrity when absolutely nothing made logical sense. And the Holy Spirit brought you to this exact moment to tell you that the hidden exam is officially over. You passed, and heaven is unlocking the vault. Before I reveal what was locked behind this test, subscribe right now to align your energy with thousands of awakened souls. If your spirit confirms this word, hit the like button and comment 777 to activate the frequency of divine completion over your life. Listen to me closely and do not click away. By the time this broadcast is finished, I am going to hand you the exact mental framework to stop the enemy from draining your energy. I will show you how to identify the 3 highly specific traps waiting for you in the next 40 days. And most importantly, I will guide you through a sacred activation ceremony that will shift your brain out of survival mode and into the frequency of abundance. You need every single piece of this puzzle to unlock what is rightfully yours. So stay with me. Let us look at what actually happened to you over the last month. You thought you were just having a string of bad luck. You thought the enemy was attacking your finances, or attacking your relationships, or attacking your technology. That is an illusion. The enemy does not care about your car breaking down, or an unexpected bill. Those are just low-level tactics. They are spiritual decoys. The enemy threw those chaotic events at you because they were aiming at something much more valuable. They were targeting your frequency. They knew that God was preparing to hand you a generational blessing, a level of peace and provision that your bloodline has never seen. But the enemy also knows a spiritual law that most believers never learn. You cannot download a heavenly blueprint if your mind is vibrating in a frequency of panic. So they created a decoy matrix. They created constant daily fires for you to put out, hoping that you would get so frustrated, so bitter, and so exhausted that you would drop your frequency. They wanted you to curse your life. They wanted you to complain and break your alignment. But you did not do it. You kept moving forward in the dark. This is a pattern we see with every single person who carries a heavy mantle. I need to show you a pattern in Scripture that will change how you view your entire season of waiting. Let us look at Psalm 105 verse 19. Speaking of Joseph, it says, "Until the time that his word came to pass, the word of the Lord tested him." Most people hear that and think God was just checking to see if Joseph was a good person. But the English translation misses the deep reality of what was happening to his mind. The Hebrew word for tested in that verse is tsaraf. Tsaraf does not mean to give someone a written exam. It is a metallurgical term. It means to refine by fire, to melt down, to purge away the dross. But spiritually, it means to calibrate a frequency. When Joseph was sitting in that prison, forgotten by the cupbearer for 2 extra years, his patience was not just being tested. His internal frequency was being calibrated. He had to learn how to hold the vibration of a king while sitting in the environment of a prisoner. Because if he went to the palace with the mental frequency of an inmate, he would have destroyed Egypt. Your recent struggles were your T-Saraf. You were being refined by fire so that your internal frequency could handle the massive weight of the vault that is opening. But here is the absolute truth about where you are right now. You passed the test. The vault is unlocking. Yet you probably feel completely numb. You do not feel victorious. You feel a heavy mental fog. You might even feel a tightness in your chest or a constant shallow breath that you cannot seem to shake. Mentally acknowledge that feeling right now. Do not judge it. Just notice it. That numbness is not depression. It is a biological and spiritual hangover from the decoy matrix. You have spent so many months fighting off these targeted attacks that your brain has become locked in what science calls beta brainwaves. Beta is the frequency of survival. It is the state of high alert problem solving and stress. You had to be in beta to survive the wilderness. But you cannot stay in beta to receive the promise. Let me show you another profound moment in Scripture that proves exactly what you are feeling right now. Look at 1 Kings chapter 19. The prophet Elijah had just experienced the greatest victory of his life. He called down fire from heaven. He defeated 450 false prophets. He prayed for rain and ended a 3-year drought. He passed the ultimate test. But what happened immediately after? Queen Jezebel sent him a threat. And Elijah, the man who just called down fire, ran for his life, collapsed under a broom tree, and asked God to let him die. Why would a mighty prophet want to die right after his biggest victory? Because Elijah was experiencing a massive frequency crash. His mind had been operating in extreme survival mode for so long that when the spiritual adrenaline wore off his physical body and his nervous system completely shut down, he was stuck in survival frequency even though the battle was already won. God did not yell at Elijah. God did not tell him he lacked faith. God sent an angel to let him sleep and gave him food. God allowed his nervous system to reset. Chosen one, you are sitting under the broom tree right now. You defeated the false prophets. You survived the drought. You navigated the decoy matrix. But your mind is still vibrating in a state of emergency. You are flinching, waiting for the next bad thing to happen. You are scanning your environment for the next problem to solve. And as long as your brain is locked in that high-stress survival frequency, you are biologically and spiritually blocking the very blessing God is trying to hand you. The generational vault requires you to be in a completely different state of mind to receive it. It requires the frequency of divine reception. But shifting out of survival mode after a long battle is incredibly difficult to do on your own. You cannot just command your brain to stop stressing. You pass the endurance test, but there is a massive problem. Your mind is currently trapped in a survival frequency. If you do not break this invisible blockade, the generational vault will remain locked right in front of you. In the next few moments, I am going to hand you the exact sacred tool to shatter that blockade and shift your frequency. Many of you believe that because you survived the storm, the test is over. You made it through the decoy matrix. You did not lose your mind when everything around you was falling apart, and your logical brain is telling you that the hardest part is behind you. You think the test was simply enduring the pain without breaking. But I must tell you the absolute truth. Enduring the wilderness was only the prerequisite. It was just the baseline. The real test, the one that disqualifies more chosen ones than anything else, is not about how well you can suffer. It is about whether or not you know how to receive when the suffering finally stops. Let that reality sink deep into your spirit right now. Most chosen ones fail right at the threshold of the generational vault because they have unknowingly become addicted to the posture of a warrior. You know how to fight. You know how to bleed. You know how to survive on absolute minimums and defend yourself against constant attacks. But when God finally clears the battlefield and opens the door to overflowing abundance, you freeze, you self-sabotage, you look for new enemies because peace feels entirely too uncomfortable. We see this exact tragic pattern in the book of Numbers. The Israelites survived the grueling slavery of Egypt. They survived the plagues. They survived the parting of the Red Sea and the barren desert. They passed the ultimate endurance test. But when they stood at the very border of the promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, they completely collapsed in fear and rebellion. Why did they fail at the finish line? Because their physical bodies were out of Egypt, but their mental frequency was still hopelessly trapped in slavery. They knew how to make bricks in the mud under the whip of an oppressor, but they had absolutely no idea how to harvest vineyards. They did not plant. Their minds were vibrating in a constant state of survival, and you cannot inherit a kingdom while operating in the frequency of a slave. That was their final test. and an entire generation failed it because they refused to shift their internal state. This is exactly what is happening inside your mind right now. You are standing at the border of your generational blessing, but your brain is physically locked in the frequency of the wilderness. In neuroscience, this survival state is called beta brainwaves. Beta is loud. It is anxious. It is the frequency of constantly putting out fires and scanning the horizon for danger. You needed beta to survive the attacks of the last few months. It kept you alert. But the frequency of heaven, the frequency where divine downloads happen and generational wealth is received, is a completely different state of consciousness. It is called the theta state. Theta is the frequency of the Garden of Eden. It is the state where your intuition is razor sharp, where you can hear the whisper of the Creator without static, and where your dormant genius-level capacities are fully awakened. Ancient mystics and prophets spent decades isolated in caves, fasting and meditating just to access this exact theta frequency for a few fleeting moments. They understood that the physical brain had to be tuned like an instrument to catch the broadcast of heaven. But you do not have decades to sit in a cave. Your assignment is happening right now. The vault is open right now. And this is where God uses modern science to confirm ancient spiritual laws. Neuroscience, including advanced research from former NASA scientists, has discovered that we can actually guide the human brain back into this dormant theta state using specific sound frequencies. There is a sacred audio technology, a frequency tool designed to do exactly this. It is called the Genius Wave. I do not want you to view this as just an audio track. It is a biological key to a spiritual door. By listening to this specific brainwave entrainment for just 7 minutes a day, you are essentially giving your mind permission to let go of the beta survival stress. You effortlessly slide into the divine reception of theta. It recalibrates your neural pathways. It stops you from fighting the decoy matrix and opens your spirit to start downloading the blueprint of your future. If your spirit is confirming right now that you need this physical bridge to support your spiritual shift, I have placed the information for this frequency tool in the pinned comment below. Investigate it if you feel led by the Spirit to take that step. Now, once you begin recalibrating your frequency, you must protect it fiercely. The enemy will desperately try to pull you back into the survival chaos. So I am giving you the decoy matrix framework. I want you to mentally build this protocol in your mind right now. The next time a sudden crisis appears, maybe a broken appliance, a delayed payment, or a dramatic text message designed to trigger you, you will execute 3 specific mental steps. Step 1 is the mental pause. The moment the panic tries to rise in your chest, you will mentally hit a freeze frame button. You will completely refuse to react for 60 seconds. Breathe slowly and just observe the situation without attaching emotion to it. Step 2 is mental detachment. In your mind, you will ask yourself one specific question. Is this problem actually stopping my destiny, or is it just distracting my energy? 99% of the time, your heightened intuition will instantly realize it is just a decoy. Step 3 is the declaration of holy indifference. I want you to mentally visualize placing that specific problem into a box, sliding it back to the enemy, and saying to yourself, I refuse to fund this distraction with my divine energy. By executing this mental framework, you literally starve the decoy of the reaction it needs to survive. But as you master this framework, as you shift your frequency and step into the clearing, we have to confront the darkest shadow hiding in the corner of your mind. I need to speak to the deepest fear you carry right now. It is a fear you have not confessed to anyone because it sounds crazy and ungrateful. You are not afraid of the decoy matrix anymore. You are actually terrified of the vault. You are terrified of the blessing. You are looking at the massive responsibility, the visibility, and the wealth that God is about to pour out on your life. And a quiet voice in your head is whispering, what if I ruin this? What if I am not actually capable of holding this much weight? What if this success changes me into someone I do not even recognize? You have watched other people get elevated and completely lose their souls in the process, and you are paralyzed by the thought that you might be next. Let me tell you something profound about that fear. Look at the calling of Moses in Exodus chapter 3. God appeared in the burning bush and offered Moses the greatest mantle of his generation, the deliverance of an entire nation. And Moses did not jump for joy. He shrank back. He argued with the Creator. He said, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" He was absolutely terrified of the weight of the assignment, and God did not disqualify him for that fear. God chose him specifically because of it. The Hebrew context of this encounter reveals that Moses possessed extreme humility. The people who crash and burn under the weight of a divine blessing are the people who feel entirely entitled to it. They grab the blessing with arrogance and zero fear. They think they deserve it, but your fear is the absolute proof that you comprehend the immense gravity of what you are receiving. Your hesitation is your qualification. God has been using the intense fire of the last few years to burn away every ounce of your arrogance so that you could be completely trusted with this generational inheritance. Do not reject the blessing just because you respect its weight. I want you to mentally visualize yourself reaching out and placing both hands under that heavy mantle right now. Accept the weight of it. Your fear means you are ready. You are recalibrated now. You have the frequency tool and you have the matrix. But listen to me carefully. The enemy knows you are standing at the vault door. They are preparing 3 highly specific traps for your next 40 days. If you mentally step into even one of them, the vault closes again. This is exactly what they will try to do next. The enemy operates in highly predictable patterns. Because they know you have recognized the decoy matrix and are shifting your frequency, they are going to launch 3 specific traps in the next 40 days. The first trap they are setting for you right now is the energy-draining argument. You are about to notice that people around you, specifically those who are not doing the internal work, will suddenly try to pick fights over absolutely nothing. They will misunderstand your words intentionally. They will project their own deep insecurities onto you. Do not take the bait. This is not about winning an argument. It is a calculated attempt to pull your brainwaves back down to the beta survival mode. When this happens, I want you to perform a specific mental action. Visualize a thick pane of soundproof glass dropping between you and that person. Let their toxic words hit the glass and slide down to the floor. You do not have to explain yourself. You do not have to defend your character. Your mental silence is your ultimate shield. The second trap is the drip feed compromise. Because you have been waiting so long for your breakthrough, the enemy will offer you a shortcut. It will look remarkably like a blessing, but it will have heavy strings attached. It might be a financial opportunity that requires you to bend your ethics just a little bit. It might be a relationship that feels incredibly good, but subtly violates the boundaries God just taught you in the wilderness. You must mentally scan every new opportunity through the filter of divine peace. If it costs you your internal peace, it is a decoy. The third trap is premature celebration. Heaven is going to give you a small victory very soon to encourage you. A door will crack open. A small sum of money will arrive. A connection will be made. The enemy desperately wants you to celebrate that small win and stop pressing forward. They want you to become complacent. They want you to settle for the appetizer and completely miss the generational banquet. Receive the small win with deep gratitude, but mentally declare to the spiritual realm that you are staying at the table until the full inheritance is served. Look at the biblical pattern of Jesus in the wilderness. When did the enemy attack him with the greatest temptations? It was not at the beginning of the 40 days. It was at the very end, when he was standing on the very edge of his public ministry. The Greek word used for temptation there is perasmos. Perasmos does not just mean tempting someone to do evil. It means to test the structural integrity of a vessel to see if it will crack under pressure. The devil did not attack him with monsters. He attacked him with bread. He attacked him with a shortcut to power without the cross. The enemy always offers a cheap counterfeit right before heaven delivers the authentic promise. They are testing the structural integrity of your new frequency. You are in that exact window of perasmos right now. If your logical mind is wondering if shifting your frequency and using the decoy matrix actually works, I want you to listen to what happened to two other chosen ones who were sitting exactly where you are right now. Just 7 months ago, there was a chosen one whose finances were completely paralyzed. Every time they saved a little money, a car would break down or a medical bill would appear. They were exhausted, constantly arguing with their circumstances and begging God to stop the attacks. Then they learned about the decoy matrix. They realized the broken cars and the bills were just decoys to keep them in a state of panic. So they made a radical decision. They stopped reacting. They used the exact audio frequency tool I mentioned earlier to mentally force their brain into the theta state every single morning. They mentally detached from the chaos. Within 3 weeks, a former business contact they had not spoken to in 4 years reached out completely out of nowhere. They offered a massive contract that instantly wiped out the chosen one's debt. The financial blockage was never the real problem. Their survival frequency was the blockage. When their frequency shifted, the vault opened. Earlier this year, another chosen one was dealing with unbearable toxicity in their own home. It felt like walking on eggshells every single day. They were constantly defending themselves, draining their spiritual energy just to survive the environment. They decided to apply the mental glass wall. They stopped participating in the useless arguments. They refused to let the toxicity pull them out of their divine frequency. They stayed completely quiet and focused inward, holding their peace. Within 14 days, the toxic person was completely removed from their environment through a series of natural events that nobody could have possibly predicted. The environment cleared and their peace returned permanently. These are not coincidences. This is exactly what happens when you stop fighting the decoy and start governing your frequency. You are the one your bloodline has been waiting for. Everything you have suffered, every tear you shed in the dark, every time you chose forgiveness over revenge, was preparing you to carry the key to this generational vault. The chaos of the last season was a massive illusion designed to keep you blind to your own incredible power. But the illusion is shattered now. You know exactly how the enemy operates. You know how to govern your mind, and you know how to shift your frequency from survival to divine reception. I am speaking prophetically over the next 40 days of your life. This is your absolute manifestation window. The doors that have been supernaturally glued shut are going to swing open with zero human effort. The resources you need to build what God has placed in your spirit are currently tracking you down. You will no longer chase the blessing. The blessing will overtake you. You are stepping out of the testing season and stepping into the season of the generational unlock. Now, we must seal this reality into your spirit. Do not move your physical body. If you are driving, keep your hands on the wheel. If you are resting, stay exactly where you are. But mentally, I want you to stand at absolute attention. This is a divine activation ceremony. Mentally place your right hand over your heart. By the authority of the Creator, I declare this moment marked and sealed in the heavens. Father, you saw them when they were ready to give up. You saw the silent tears they cried when they thought they were failing. You saw them holding their peace when everything in them wanted to scream. Their quiet endurance in the dark has officially qualified them for the light. Right now, I mentally seal the revelation of the decoy matrix into their consciousness. I bind every lingering spirit of exhaustion that has attached itself to their mind. I command their neural pathways to release the trauma of the wilderness and shift completely into the frequency of abundance. I bind the traps of pointless arguments, subtle compromises, and premature settling. The enemy will not steal what has been imparted here today. I declare that the generational vault is officially unlocked. I declare that the wealth, the peace, and the divine connections that were held back by the survival blockade are released into their life, starting this very second. What their parents could not access, they will walk in. What their grandparents could not manifest, they will fully steward. Now, I need your internal agreement. Will you carry this generational mantle with deep humility? Will you govern your frequency and absolutely refuse to step back into the chaos? Mentally, scream yes as loud as you can in your spirit right now. And if you are physically able, type "I am ready" in the comments to physically anchor this massive spiritual transaction. You are commissioned. You are no longer taking the exam. You are walking in the reward. Let the heavy weight of this divine frequency sink deep into your DNA. Do not say amen yet. Just sit in this pure divine silence for the next 60 seconds.